It is July 13th, 2022, and we're going to start the school board awards and presentations at this time. It is 5:30 p.m., and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a number of presentations, and I will turn it over to our presentation coordinator, Ms. Maddox.
I have a new title every meeting. Thank you, Dr. Moore. Tonight, for one of our first presentations, we have the Environmental Communication Teaching Training video. And first, we're going to play the video for you so you get an idea of what exactly that is, and then I'm going to ask some of our special guests to come up.
The Exceptional Student Education Department is so excited to have the opportunity to participate in ECT training this year. ECT stands for Environmental Communication Teaching, and it gives our students a voice.
I want trampoline or swing? Swing! There we go! Great job telling us go!
The teams who participated in environmental communication teaching training this year were from Vero Beach Elementary, Dodgertown Elementary, and Pelican Island Elementary. One of the goals of environmental communication teaching is to empower teachers to problem solve augmentative and alternative communication tools. These might be tools that are rather low tech, that are visual supports, or they might be communication devices, an iPad with a communication app for students who have very limited communication skills.
Environmental communication training has helped me in my practice by looking outside of what my typical practice usually is. We usually go in, having our goals on the IEP, and this has helped me look outside of that perspective and to really look at the environment, seeing what's in the classroom that we can change up and elicit some really good communication exchanges with our kids.
I want orange juice.
We've seen tremendous growth. We had one student who, when I started in October, I was told, oh, he doesn't speak any words, and now he's speaking in full sentences. And I believe a lot of that is because he's comfortable in the room, and he also has had visuals that help him realize what we're wanting him to say and kind of giving him the tools he needs to be able to communicate. A lot of it was having a visual with the word underneath it so that he could see the visual, and he also is learning how to read so he can match the two together and communicate a lot more. We have 8 students in the classroom, and I would say it's helped every single one of them, which is amazing. It's really been a great program.
The impact has really been in the teaching. Ms. Eisenman has been able to take the techniques and strategies and implement those so that now they are progressing more rapidly.
I think the power behind environmental communication teaching training is having a whole year to watch and to grow, not just to absorb all the information that comes from the days of training, but to come back and apply that, and to do the videotaping, and to re-plan how we're going to deal with helping the children to grow in their communication skills. And when you see that those kids have made this incredible progress from start to finish, that end-of-year project is always a fabulous thing. It brings tears to your eyes to see the growth that these kids make in their communication skills, which impacts everything they do.
Our goal is to elevate ESE in the school district of Indian River County, and this has been a very big commitment for everyone who participated. We are incredibly thankful for the discretionary projects who helped make it happen for us, and the district and school support and staff members who worked so hard to make this happen for our students.
As you can see, this is an amazing training that our teachers are going through to help give a voice to some of our students who are otherwise unable to have that much of a voice and communicate their own needs. And tonight I'd like to invite Ms. Rachel Morey, our Director of Exceptional Student Education, to come up. She's going to share a few more details about the program and introduce some of our special guests.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity tonight to shine light on some of this work that's been taking place in the ESE department. I've been very vocal about our goal and mission to elevate ESE in our schools, and this is a great example of what that really looks like for students. As you saw, teams from our varying exceptionalities communication units at Vero Beach Elementary, Dodgertown, and Pelican Island Elementary participated in this year-long training, and the impact on student communication growth was tremendous. If you were a part of this work or supported this work, if you will, please stand for a moment so we can recognize you and your impact. The teams who participated in this spent the whole year learning strategies and supports to implement to increase the independent initiation of communication in students with significant communication needs. As it said in the video, giving students the ability to share their wants and needs with others, giving them a voice, a vital life skill that some didn't have at the beginning of the year. We are very grateful to the commitments made by the team members who participated, not only for going to the training, but for the day-to-day implementation of what they were learning so that the students would benefit from it. And just as important to acknowledge is the dedication of the school administrators from VBE, Dodgertown, and Pelican Island, who recognized how valuable this experience was and committed to allowing their staff members to participate, taking them away from the school campus for multiple days throughout the year. And finally, there were 2 state discretionary projects who supported this initiative, the Problem-Solving Response to Intervention and Access projects, who not only provided the training, but removed every barrier for access for us, paid for substitutes, every cost associated with participating, they provided for us. This was our 8th year participating in this, and we are excited to continue to expand and grow as we roll into the 9th year of this PD next year. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've had some very exciting summer opportunities happening in the school district of Indian River County, and tonight we have a presentation/performance like no other. We have our drone camp that is learning at Sebastian River High School this summer. It began on June 6th, and it's going through June 24th. And tonight I'd like to introduce Ms. Christine Burr. She's one of our amazing career and technical education specialists, and she'll share some information on the drone camp and introduce some of our special guests.
Hi, good evening. I'm so glad to be here. I'm always excited about sharing things happening in career and technical education. We have some amazing things going on in our schools, and this is just one little piece of a summer opportunity for these students. The Drone Summer Camp is hosted at Sebastian River High School. The main purpose was to get interest into our aerospace technologies program there. We are targeting 6th through 9th graders, and the camp is funded through the Rural Innovation Grant, which is part of the Career and Technical Education 21st Century Act funds. So those funds covered 2 teachers to actually run the camp, all the curriculum, 24 drones that we are using for the students, and a lot of fun. It's great. Now the grant, we reached out, since it's the Rural Innovation Grant, we were targeting our rural students. So our first priority was to Sebastian River Middle School. I also reached out to the Boys and Girls Club at Fellsmere Elementary to target those students to come to the camp also. Once we targeted them, we opened it up to the whole district. We have charter school kids, we have private school kids in the drone camp. So it's a great opportunity for all students within the whole district to be able to come together and learn some great skills. I'd like to introduce well, I had 2 instructors. Mr. Anderson, he couldn't be here today, but I have Tigre Lane and our students. Our students are Brianna Barber, Phil's Barber, come on up guys, William Lewis, Cooper Vallejo, Alex Smith, and Brandon Neal. All of, set up that. They're gonna do a demonstration of drones going through obstacle I am going to have their instructor have a little, let you know what they do with the curriculum-wise. But just so you know, every one of these students that are here has already earned their trust certification, which is the recreational UAS safety test, which is sponsored by the FAA. So they did that during the first week of drone camp, and now we have licensed recreational pilots, and we're gonna have a little show.
I'm a little nervous. On the phone, check that out.
Oh, where is it? Oh.
Huh?
For those of you curious what's going on, my name is Tigray Lane. I'm one of the teachers at Sebastian River Middle School, but I am one of the drone instructors along with George Anderson from the high school. Right now, we have a drone connected to, well, just about every student's phone, something I think every student you'll find always have. The program introduces 2 ways to fly a drone. One is manually, which is what we're going to demonstrate right now. The other way is through a program called Drone Blocks, which is a form of programming. So while you might be thinking, oh, do the kids just sit and fly all day? They do, but we also try to instruct things like safety and staying safe, as well as like a little bit of programming into these next 3 weeks. So right now, we're going to have one of my students pilot the drone really simply up through the hoop and around the cone and back. The other one will visually instruct him on what he needs to do to adjust his flight path. We're trying to get the other drone working, which is why we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we can at least show one of them working. So with that, guys, you ready?
Hey guys,
All right.
what's for observing, or over here?
The safety helmet we put on, or? Okay.
No, that.
Yeah. Kids here, guys.
Oh. Thank you, Alex. You ready?
All right. All right.
You don't want to?
Yeah, it's never worked like that for me.
Well then, Phil, Brianna, since we're still having problems with this one, you want to just take over?
Yeah, go ahead and take over. Go ahead, Brianna, you're up.
We're just gonna pass it down. Don't worry, we can get you full back, I promise. You ready? Phil, help you sit down. Thank you.
She'll wait for you.
All right, well, you're welcome to try it. But you're welcome to come to Sebastian River High School anytime during the week. 8 to 2 is when we have the camp, Monday through Friday, and we'll hook you up with a drone and put you through the obstacles.
That's not what my drone looked like when I flew it. I haven't seen it since it landed on the roof. Good job, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Can we get a picture? Yeah. Board members, would you please stand? If we could just kind of make windows right along here in front of the
All right, good job, guys.
Good job, everybody.
Great work.
We had the opportunity to choose a student this year to win the Florida Prepaid Scholarship that was provided to our district. Several students completed an essay, and the prompt was, tell us about a time you failed and learned from it. An application to be considered was turned in for the scholarship, and a scholarship committee reviewed these essays and looked through all the information that was submitted. Tonight, we would love to present this Florida Prepaid Scholarship to Caitlin Aitchen. Caitlin, could you come up? Congratulations. And stay for a picture. But we chose Caitlin's essay because it was so descriptive and it was so funny about a failure involving driving a truck. And you could just feel the anxiety from Mom when the truck was going, and it was a fabulous essay. We really loved it. And Caitlin will be attending Indian River State College, and she plans to study art therapy. Wonderful. Very cool. All right, Caitlin, would you just stand in the middle there?
Right there, putting you right on the spot. Good job, sweetheart.
Congratulations, Caitlin. As most of you know, each month we do our Casual for a Cause initiative, and that's when students and staff and teachers, they dress down in exchange for a donation to one of our organizations. And in the month of May, we had the honor of raising money for the Crossover Mission. Could I please invite Marley Butcher, the general manager at Crossover Mission, up to the podium, please? And we would like to present you with this check for $1,846.75. She gets a real one. They get a real one, too. If you could just stand right in the middle, and we'll grab a picture, and you can keep the check.
You ain't gonna go too far.
Thank you so much. You keep it. It's yours. Okay.
Well, thank you all so much. This is so generous and wonderful. It helps our organization a lot, especially over the summer when we do so much with our students. Currently, we have 22 kids up at FSU right now for their basketball camp. So our students get to experience dorm life, they have to be on a meal plan, and they really get to see what the life of a student athlete is like in college. So like I said, these funds really help us support those programs. Really quickly, I just wanted to recap our Q4 results for you to, number one, thank the school board and school district for allowing us to have access to those results. At the end of Q4, 95% of our students had a 2.0 or above, which is awesome. Yeah, we're really proud of that. And 15% of our students had a 4.0 GPA. So. So again, thank you to the school district for allowing us to have that collaboration and that support. You know, the work we do is important, so thank you.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, each year we have the opportunity to nominate a community partner for the Florida Department of Education Commissioner's Recognition Awards. This year we nominated Piper for their support and partnership of our district. And I'd like to introduce Ms. Cindy Emerson, Director of Innovation, to share some details about this incredible partnership and introduce our special guests.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maddox and the board. This was such an exciting experience this year, really creating a symbiotic relationship between the school district of Indian River County and one of our career collaboration partners with Piper Aircraft. This year, we did our first ever entrepreneurial symposium, and some of our guest speakers from the community were able to come in and speak to the entrepreneurial mindset that is needed in order to innovate and change dynamics throughout their career. We were so fortunate to have not one, but 2 guest speakers from Piper who came and spoke about being a vice president of human resources, Miss Victoria Tuffy, and a director of engineering, Mr. Mark Owlett. Now that wasn't it. That's not the only thing Piper did for us this year. As we continued to grow our relationship, we were able to meet with Director of Manufacturing, Greg Wendell, and build a true career collaboration, taking some of our seniors who were recently graduating over to Piper for a field trip experience. And right now I'd like to show you a video from that day. Today we have the opportunity to showcase a brand new career collaboration between Piper Aircraft, Sebastian River High School, and Vero Beach High School students and guidance counselors. We have identified over 60 students, brought them here to Piper for a field trip experience to learn about all of the entry-level job opportunities right here in our local community.
My favorite part of today was seeing the different types of pieces that come together to make the teamwork and the planes and everything about that. It's great.
I would say my favorite part is probably the welding, because that's something I'm really interested in, and I would really love to get into the program and try to get an application for it and everything like that, and try to get into it, learn more.
Over 24 of the students today have already signed up for interviews and to apply for a job right here at Piper.
I plan on applying to Piper because I would love to get into the apprenticeship program to learn a lot more. I want to learn the soldering and the electrical stuff to get more of an experience on how to do things and everything like that.
And seeing this experience, I think I kind of want to apply to Piper because it's great. I see the community in there working together, making everything small pieces becoming a whole. Everything it just looks great in there. They're doing good work.
I was talking to my mom. I said, "Mom, I'm gonna work here at Piper." She was just happy. She gave me with the heart.
We couldn't be more excited to offer opportunities from high school graduation to direct career pathways here in Indian River County, and we couldn't do it without community support. So I just want to share, I was on the field trip with the students, and at one point, one of the kids was on his phone, and he was aggressively texting. And I looked over at him, and he's like, "Oh, miss, I want to apologize. I don't want you to think I'm texting my friend. I'm texting my mom to let her know I finally figured out what I want to do with my life." And it was such a heartfelt moment, and it wouldn't have been possible without meeting with Piper, hearing about the employment opportunities, and directly connecting with our guidance counselors that identified students that decided their pathway was not going to be college. They wanted to jump into a career. And I was given an update today. We are already at 10 students who have been hired now at Piper as a result of that career collaboration. So at this time, I would like to call up Victoria Tuffy, Vice President of Human Resources, and Greg Wendell, Director of Manufacturing, to receive this I think, well-honored recognition from the commissioner.
So straight from the Florida Department of Education, we have your Commissioner's Recognition Awards for being our nominated business this year, Piper Aircraft in Indian River County. Thank you so much for everything that you have done for our district and supporting our students. We really appreciate it. And I know you have a few words to say.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Victoria Tuffy. I'm very excited to be here. This is a fantastic partnership that we have with the school district, and like Cindy said, we hired 10 so far. 5 actually started today, and I'll tell you, they were so excited in orientation. We have 5 more starting the next week, and we hope to continue this partnership. we really offer fantastic opportunities for folks right out of school where they can do so many things and have outstanding career opportunities with us. So we're going to expand this partnership, continue it. We'll even start earlier next year because we think it's just a fantastic partnership that will really thrive in the coming years. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it, and it's an honor to accept it for Piper.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Moore, I'll turn it back over to you.
And I will turn it back over to the chair. That concludes our presentations for this evening.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 5:56. We will start our business meeting at 6 o'clock. Thank you. It is Monday, June 13th, 2022. This is our business meeting. We are in the Joanne Idlett Junior Teacher Education Center, and it is 6 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we're going to start, because we have no ROTC today, I'd like to ask Mr. Meyer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Okay, adoption of the orders of the day. Board members, is there any item that someone wishes to move from consent to action?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Rosario?
Yes, I'd like to move item 8A to action.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to move the superintendent's presentation to immediately follow the proclamation, which is 2A.
You're moving 2A? Sorry, I don't have it.
Move immediately following 2A, the
Okay.
superintendent's presentation.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
To immediately following 2A. Okay, I'm sorry.
The FSBA Advocacy Committee is under discussion. I understood from today that we were going to take a vote on that, so shouldn't that be an action item?
That's what I thought it was. Was this originally on discussion? I thought I saw it on action. It was on discussion. We can reach consensus. We don't have to vote. What
That's
would
why
you
I
like?
mentioned it earlier when I said it's on discussion.
Oh, gotcha. So what would you like to do? You want to keep it in discussion? You want to move it?
I would like to move it to action.
Okay. Board members, you all are okay with that? Because we talked about before not moving something to action on the dais.
Yeah, I'm okay with leaving it as discussion.
Discussion? Okay, we'll keep it as discussion then. All right. I call for a motion to accept that orders of the day.
So move.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Jones and Zion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is Mr. Barefoot on?
Madam Chair, point of clarification.
Yes.
If we are keeping something as consensus, is consensus all board members, or is consensus a majority of board members? How do we do that?
Majority.
It's just a majority, simple majority. Okay.
You try to come to consensus with all, but sometimes that doesn't.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, does Mr. Barefoot, okay, does he agree to the adoption of the orders of the day?
I do.
Okay, then that is a 5-0 vote. All right, so I've got to move 8A. Action. Okay, and then yours is going to be moved. Immediately following. Okay, we're good to go. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Dr. Moore for a proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The time has come to acknowledge Mr. Rick Meyer, who has served as our Assistant Superintendent in Curriculum Instruction for the last 2.5 years. Mr. Meyer made the decision to come and join our team just prior to the start of the pandemic. He came in after leading Just Read Florida for the entire state of Florida to help be part of this turnaround, this transformation. His willingness to uproot his family and come in and be in service of this county, of our children, cannot thank him enough. The contributions that he has made in a very, very small amount of time has forever improved the school district of Indian River County. Mr. Myers made a very, very difficult decision, a decision in which he has thought over a great deal, and I'm sure he'll have the opportunity to speak and can talk through that. But I cannot personally thank him enough for his willingness to move, 5.5, 6 hours away to come join me in this work. And your contributions, your dedication, your push, the level in which you think through has been a tremendous asset not only to me, but to this district. So I cannot thank you enough. So we are going to read a proclamation. We have not rehearsed this, but we like to honor you by reading this proclamation. So with that, here we go, Cabinet.
Whereas Mr. Meyer has served as the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction for the School District of Indian River County since February 12th, 2020, and
whereas Mr. Meyer enhanced school improvement planning by establishing a new school improvement process that guides the thinking and drives the work while supporting process thinking, and
whereas Mr. Meyer focused on academics, moved the third grade ELA data from 28th to the 12th in the state, and
whereas Mr. Meyer provided leadership for the creation and implementation of a rigorous data-driven process, Dream STEAM, to identify schools to support growth and excellence in STEAM education, and
whereas Mr. Meyer guided the establishment of an aspirational goal of ensuring that 90% of each cohort successfully passes the Algebra 1 EOC by 9th grade through a comprehensive redesign of the middle grades 5 through 9 math instruction, and
whereas Mr. Meyer implemented enhancements to programming such as dual enrollment, accelerated placement, and CTE course pathways, and
whereas Mr. Meyer provided leadership for the development of the instructional provisional plan during the spring closure due to COVID-19 and played a pivotal role in the conceptualization of varied learning options, including remote learning options amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, therefore, the School Board of Indian River County hereby proclaims June 13th, 2022 as Richard A. Meyer Day.
we're going to get a group picture.
Make him stand by himself.
Thank you. Thank you.
The mic is yours, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Through the chair, it has absolutely been the honor of a lifetime to work for this board. Thank you all for everything you taught me. The previous board that I worked for was kind of a rubber stamp. This board is not. There's lots of discourse on this board.
You're welcome.
And that's what makes us, yeah, absolutely. That's what makes working here special, and that's what I want to thank you for. You've made me a better educator. You've made me a better leader. This experience has been invaluable to me because of this board's leadership and the willingness to have very difficult conversations, of which, make us better because of. So thank you so much for everything you guys have done. It was humbling, and I felt some guilt hearing all of this during the proclamation, because a lot of this work could not have been done without my team, both those that sit to my right and left here on the cabinet and that work with me in CNI. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff on there that says Mr. Meyer, but it was a team. And so thank you guys for everything y'all have done for me. And then lastly, Dr. Moore, I can't thank you enough for your mentorship. We talked about a lot of things about leadership during the time that I've been here. And one of the things we talked about was the coaching tree and where we go on from here as we have the opportunity to mentor those around us and make them better. And I can't thank you enough for your personal guidance and what you've taught me during the past 2.5 years. It will undoubtedly make me better, and I will not let you down. So you won't have to be embarrassed of me in the future. It's like, oh man, that guy, I don't want to claim him. But it was just a tremendous opportunity to learn from you during this time. So it is with some sadness that I do have to leave. I was welcomed here. My family was welcomed here. My kids loved it here. But other family engagements are calling me back to North Florida, and that's where I feel I need to be. But this is a wonderful community. Same thing for those of you that are out there we've had some tough conversations with. I said it up here before, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. And I just love that the American spirit is alive here and well in Indian River County, and I think the future is entirely bright here, and I wish everyone the best. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'd like to call for a vote for the proclamation. May I have a first?
So moved.
Okay. Dr.
Second.
Dr. Jones. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? It carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
Thank you.
Okay. I have some citizen input forms.
Proclamation.
I'm sorry. Oh, proclamation. Go ahead.
Next item is the superintendent's presentation, and I'd like to highlight today quickly our third grade results. They've been out for 2 weeks now. We're going to pull up a presentation quickly to be shared for informational reasons. So when you look at a clicker that doesn't click.
Sarah can probably just move it for you.
There you go. All right, so this is the release of third grade scores that just came out, and what you see here is you're looking at Indian River County, Brevard, Martin County, St. Lucie, and Okeechobee. That is our surrounding counties, also known as the Treasure Coast. And you can see that Indian River County has moved pre-pandemic from a state ranking of 28 to a state ranking post-pandemic at the end of this school year to 12th. So that's significant improvement over the course of the last 3 years. You look at other counties and you can see some pre-pandemic scores of reading proficiency for Brevard at 64, falling to 58, a drop of 6. You look at Martin going from 54 to 51, a 3 percentage point drop. You look at St. Lucie dropping 2 percentage points, but only moving to 48. So when you look at these results in the midst of a pandemic and you're looking at these state rankings, the school district of Indian River County should be very proud of how it's been able to leverage or manage through this pandemic. We look at a score of 58, and we say there's opportunities drastically to improve. But when you rank or stack us across all other systems across the great state of Florida, you see that Indian River County is definitely on the move. 28th to 16th to 12th. Looking at us in comparison to the state, there's a 5 percentage point separation. So the state is sitting at 53, where the school district of Indian River County is sitting at 58. Now, when you look at that rate of change, moving those 16 state rankings, there's only 5 other districts in the state of Florida who outpaced that rate of change. So once again, clearly defining us as a district that is seeing growth. What I'm looking at here is the achievement gap. And what I've done is look at the school district of Indian River County and the schools in which this board is ultimately accountable for. So it excludes charter schools. And you can see in 18-19, the gap between black-white performance was 33. It is now, post-pandemic, 24. 24 is still...
It says 30 up there. 30.
Okay, hold on. I slide it. I moved 2 slides. My paper's stuck. So this is... Hold on. This is black-white performance. It was 33% pre-pandemic and 30 post-pandemic, and this is us as a total. When you look at Hispanic Hispanic, it is a difference of, once again, 3 percentage points post-pandemic to post-pandemic. Once again, seeing continuous decrease. Now, looking at students with disabilities, you see a drastic 7 percentage point decrease, moving from 43 in 2018-19 to this past year down to 36. So in summary, the school district of Indian River County has leveraged the pandemic in a very, very aggressive way. We're very proud of those. We are, in fact, outpacing the majority of other districts in the state of Florida. It's showing that our strategic plan and the alignment of our African American Achievement Plan is beginning to chip away at the gap still. Duly noted, significant work yet to be done. And we're looking forward to continuous sustainable improvements moving in the future. This is just the first set of data that we received. We'll be receiving the rest of the data probably in a week and a half, 2 weeks. So once that data becomes available, we'll have the opportunity to update the board as it relates to that data outcome. So that is my presentation. Just want to thank cabinet, principals, teachers, specifically third grade teachers and students and families. It has been a very, very hard and complex year. There's so many obstacles and challenges that stood in the way of student achievement, and so many districts are giving this same presentation, identifying those barriers and obstacles as reason for declines. But here in the school district of Indian River County, moving up the state rankings and looking forward to increasing the number of students scoring at 3 or above. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. All right, it's time for citizen input. There are guidelines.
I have a question. Can we respond to him? Can we?
Sure.
Dr. Moore, thank you for that presentation. I have a question, though. Over the course of several years, from 2015 till today, 2015, our scores, third grade, I'm just talking about third grade, third grade reading, was 53%. In 2016, our third grade's reading proficiency was 53%. Again, the following year, 56, then 56, then 60, 60, and we're down to 58, 2% from last year. So over the course, and obviously I wasn't on the board in 2015. I was a completely different board. But looking historically at our third grade scores, and then also reflecting on the goal of reaching proficiency at third grade, bringing our third graders to 90%. It doesn't look like historically we are making any great strides. Can you talk a little bit about that and how reaching the goal of 90%, or at least having that discussion of reaching the goal to 90% reading proficiency in third graders, how are we going to get out of the 50s here? Because again, historically here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, going back 7 years, we've been in the 50s into the 60, just 60 mark. Please.
Well, there's a little thing called a pandemic that took place over the last 2 years, which had significant impact on the outcomes. And as we look across the entire state, and that was something we did strategically, to look at all things considered, looking at the breaks in instruction, looking at the volume of time kids were pulled away from school or required to stay home from school, how do we create or continue to move the momentum forward? So as we come out of that pandemic, and you look at the rate of change, as I highlighted some of those school districts, and when you look at the number of districts that are within just 2 percentage points from where they were pre-pandemic, that number is very, very, very small. It's like 11 or 12 off the top of my head. So looking at what we've done in probably the most complex time in which to educate children is what we're highlighting. and what you will see over the course of time with a new curriculum that came in, that was delayed because of the pandemic and materials, looking at the stoppage in school, looking at 2 different separate months when attendance was hovering around 60% because of this Delta spike or the Omicron spike. You have to step back and say, man, despite these challenges, despite these obstacles, the same challenges and obstacles the other 66 districts experienced, we're doing a really, really good job. But to speak directly to your question, I think we're going to continue to have the impacts of the pandemic as a nation over the next several years. But I assure you the school district of Indian River County will continue to outpace other districts as we are on that march for that 90%.
So, thank you for that. I'd also like to, I mean, I know that everyone is working really hard at the schools, but I'd like to highlight in particular some of the schools that had the highest within our district. I also want to preface this, though, with our scores that you've provided for us were 58% as an entire district, but that also included our charter schools. If we remove the charter schools, we're at 48%. So our charters add to our 58%. Overall, though, in our district, in our entire district, Imagine South Vero is at 80%. This is just 3rd grade reading proficiency, 80%. St. Peter's Academy, 80%, so great job with you with those 2 schools. Liberty Magnet is at 79%. Beachland is at 76%, and then Osceola and Rosewood tie at 72%. So I think those are great scores, and they deserve the accolades for that.
So just a point of clarity, when you look at our percent at 3 or above without charters, it's actually 56%, not the number in which you...
Say that again?
56%.
For what?
Non-charters, 21, 22.
All right, I'll double check where I am.
Also, want to point out, if you show up at a public school system, we're going to embrace you, we're going to accept you, and we're going to take you in. And when you look at some of the charter schools, whether it's an application process or not, and if we were to go back to the presentation for a second. Oops. And you go back to the black-white achievement gap, that's looking at just the students in the school district of Indian River County.
I do want to clarify on that one. For whatever reason, 2 files pulled up. This one, actually, there's a correction to that. So Dr. Moore, as he was speaking, had said that we moved from 33% to 24%, so that's actually a decrease of the achievement gap of 9 percentage points, not just 3 percentage points. So that is my mistake because the wrong version came up. So.
All right, so let me just go. In 1819, the excluding charter schools, there's only 22 black 3rd graders who go to charter school in our entire county. 206 black students go to the public school systems in which this board is responsible. So just looking at the public school improvement, in 1819 it was 33, in 1819, and then 21-22 to 24, which is a decrease in the gap of 7 percentage points. When you look at Hispanic, which is not on that PowerPoint presentation, there are only 19 Hispanic students in charter schools in this community. So second largest population of the public school system, and the gap has decreased by 3. So the only point that I make is we're going to accept, we're going to take, and we're going to educate every single student who shows up at our door.
Those numbers there, Dr. Moore, were just for 3rd grade.
Just, yeah, that's all.
You said that that's the number in all of their charters, so I just wanted to clarify, just in 3rd grade.
Yes, just 3rd.
3rd grade.
Yes.
So across our charter schools, third graders, elementary only, there were 20-something Hispanics and how many
Hold on, let's,
African American?
hold on.
So it wasn't across, it's not across, because I know
In
their
third
numbers are much
grade, there
more.
are 22 black students in the 5, well, some of them don't have third grade, but in the schools that have third grade who are charter, there's 22 black students. In the Hispanic, there are 19 students in those schools.
Just third grade.
Just third grade. And we'll update this data as soon as we have all the data set and bring it back to the board.
Dr.
Yes, just in general, going from 28th to 12th, I think is significant. We all know we have work to do. I had the pleasure of being at Pre-Ignite on Friday, and you saw elementary principals digging into their data very, very carefully. They know where their areas of concern are. They know what they need to do. We're anxious for the other scores to also come back, and obviously the schools that did well are Magnet and Charter, and I think Beachland, kudos, and any other school that came up in these last 2 years or even maintained as far as what we were dealing with the pandemic, good job. And again, going from 28th to 12th as far as the county and the improvement, I know we're just going to continue to soar, so thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move to citizen input. Here are the guidelines for citizen input according to the School Board Policy 0169.1. Each statement made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Persons will be recognized in order in which the requests were received. The time shall start when the speaker is at the podium, and the school board attorney will be the official timekeeper. You will hear a beep at the end of your 3 minutes. Persons may speak for up to 3 minutes at the beginning of the business meeting during citizen input as indicated on the order of business, and for up to 3 minutes to each action item during the action item and agenda, and each board member discussion item as indicated on the order of business. Persons may only speak once about a given item. The time period may be extended by the presiding officer, and only the individual speaking may have submitted the form with their name on it. Time may not be yielded to other speakers. During the meeting, please refrain from clapping or outbursts of any sort so that we can proceed with dignity and decorum by not infringing on any individual's First Amendment rights. I need to remind everyone to direct all comments to the chairman, not to individual board members or to the superintendent. Board members may or may not address any citizen input statements at the end of all citizen input comments. As board members listen to citizens without interruption, citizens are asked to give board members the same respect. As per Florida Statute 1001.373, subsection 3, the presiding officer of any district school board may order the removal from a public meeting held by the district school board of any person interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting, provided such officer has first issued a warning that continued interference with the orderly process of the meeting will result in removal. Okay. The first speaker that we have is Joanne Holmes, and on deck will be Jennifer Pippin.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Joanne Holmes. I'm here to speak about my daughter, Michelle. In 2005, Dr. Peggy Jones hired a new English teacher for her IB program. That was Michelle. She didn't know much about IB, but she was a Catholic girl teaching in a Catholic school, so it was easy to understand the IB philosophies. It was something she had lived her whole life. That summer, she studied and learned everything she could about IB principles, and in August, she was ready to teach her students English and reinforce these principles. She was inspired to further her career, and she got her ed leadership degree working on it nights and weekends. For the past 6 years after she was promoted, I watched as she became one of the best APs in the district. One of her first assignments was heading up the ESE department. I remember her coming to me and saying, "Mom, why did you pick ESE? I don't know anything about that." I said, "That's why he gave it to you." That summer, she learned everything about ESE, from 504s and IEPs. She learned that ESE kids do have special needs and they have special protections. She became their biggest advocate. Parents and teachers trust her because she takes great care in ensuring that their plans are followed and student rights are protected. Another area that she worked hard to learn was discipline. Teachers don't have to do discipline. She wanted to make sure that all students were treated fairly and equitably. Even though she's been an assistant for a few years, last year she was the only Indian River County AP on the Code of Conduct Committee. I know that because I was there with her. She said if changes are going to be made, I need to make sure that they're fair for everyone. Sebastian River Middle School was the first school in the district to have all their teachers trained in mental health procedures. Again, not an area that Michelle knew a lot about, but one that she knew post-COVID was going to be very important to the future of our students, our teachers, and parents. Teachers need to be able to recognize kids in need and act accordingly. Michelle made sure everyone was familiar with these procedures. She's a leader in teaching social and emotional learning skills, helping our students of all ages to be able to comprehend their emotions, recognize how they feel and why they feel that way, and then to empathize with them. This year, she wrote the African American Achievement Plan, emphasizing fairness and inclusion with all students, highlighting racial equity for all students. She's dedicated, working 10, 12, 16 hours, weekends, nights, holidays, even when she doesn't feel well, always putting her job first. Ask anybody in Sebastian, when you ride by the middle school at some crazy hour and you see that little red convertible in the parking lot, that's Miss Holmes. Mr. Racine must have another project due. Then last Monday, all that changed. Without warning, she, along with her partner AP, Kelly Ward, were told that they were no longer needed as APs in Indian River County. I feel bad for the teachers that she's mentored. Oh, sorry.
Just wrap it up. Go ahead.
I feel bad for the teachers that she's mentored, the students that have lost a fair, knowledgeable assistant who always put her first.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is Jennifer Pippin, and on deck is Stacy and Jackson Klim.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Pippin, and I'm the chairman for Moms for Liberty Indian River, Florida, and one of the co-founders for We the People Indian River County. I find it very upsetting that after the past 2 years of parents, grandparents, and community members who were showing up and telling you that the COVID-19 protocols that the school district was implementing would cause harm to children. This includes mandatory masking, healthy quarantining of students, social distancing, and school closures. Now, over 2 years later, all of a sudden, we're concerned about mental health. If you had listened to most of your constituents in 2020 and 2021, it wouldn't be as bad as it is right now, and many of you sitting up on the dais are to blame no matter how many times you tried to point the finger back at us. What many of you fail to realize is that you work for us, and we don't co-parent with the government. We don't need referrals or any mental health workers between the teachers, staff, and the parents. We don't need any more school counselors or liaisons. The Climate Task Force was charged with helping for the desegregation order and completely disregarded that and turned it into a political mental health issue, which is wrong. If someone feels that there's an issue with a child, you report it to the parents and document it as you always have. It's as simple as that. We are not a medical or a mental health center, and we're not under the direction of any medical doctors. Parents may be already seeking mental health services for their child or children or have referrals from their pediatrician, and School District of Indian River County has no right to make recommendations that could counter this parental right. It always has to be done with the authorization of the parent. Also, I would like to continue to advocate for, which goes with mental health, single stall bathrooms. The reason being, it's going to cut down on vaping that you guys discussed in the superintendent's workshop. It's going to cut down on drugs, sexual encounters, fights, identity issues. If you have cameras on the bathrooms, if two people go in there, it doesn't matter what their gender, race, sex is, you know that they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing in there. One person goes in, uses the restroom, leaves. It's as simple as that. That's something that should be talked about because that goes into the mental illness and helping with so many of these things that you guys discussed today. And I want to know, how is it that you can move so quickly from a simple recommendation from a committee to a complete plan in a month? I think this has been going on for longer than just the month that the Climate Committee brought this recommendation to you from 3 postcards that they felt was most important. And again, this was supposed to help with the desegregation order, and it did not do that. It did not do that, and it was clear as day with the superintendent's workshop today. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy and Jackson Klim, and on deck is Cindy Gibbs.
Good evening. Hold on one second, I gotta get Jackson's page.
Don't start it yet.
What do you say to everybody?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Jackson and I are here tonight to talk about the amazing experience that we had over the last 3 years at Storm Grove. Jackson had Miss Smeltzer for his teacher, Mrs. Smeltzer, and she was amazing. Here's just one example of what she did when Jackson was staying home because of COVID. He would come in on Teams and come to class every morning, and if he won the Kahoot, she would Amazon him his little gift. How many teachers Amazon kids gifts to home? Mrs. Smeltzer was amazing. Miss Bieber was the principal, and she was also amazing. We're so blessed to have her for principal. We're going to miss her. And Mr. Harris was the music teacher who gave up his own planning period to create a class for Jackson's class. And I think Dr. Jones came to see it, and Dr. Moore. And at the 8th grade spring concert, Mr. Harris bought these for the 8th grade kids and gave a very moving speech about how much they had taught him. And I also want to recognize the aides. These aides, they don't get paid a lot of money, but they're changing diapers, they're feeding Jackson, they're doing all these things and for just the love of kids. And I want to read what Miss Kay wrote. Jackson makes my heart smile all the time. I know we are teaching him, but I feel in my heart he teaches us more. Grateful to work with him. This is just a small example of the wonderful things that we experienced at Storm Grove. We're going to miss them so much, but we're happy to move to Wabasso. Jackson's been going to Wabasso for the past week or so, and he's really enjoying it. And now Jackson wants to say a few thank yous himself.
Thank you, Ms. Smelter, Mr. Harris, Ms. McHenry, Ms. McDonald, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Gibson, Ms. Gee, Ms. Kay, Ms. Fosselman, Ms. Fugelberg.
Those are all Jackson's teachers and therapists and aides, and we just want to give a big shout out to all of them for the amazing experience we have. We hear a lot of really negative stuff up here, and that's not what our schools are about. Our schools are teaching kids like Jackson. They're loving him. His classroom is his family. When we went on a vacation during school year, I sent pictures of our family vacation to his teacher because his classmates missed him. And I remember Dr. Jones said that when they came to watch the concert that they missed, the class wouldn't start until Jackson was there. That is a family. We're not just educating our children. This is love. This is taking care of them. This is making sure that they're safe. And we're very thankful for this school district.
Thank you. Cindy Gibbs and Christy Mileto is on deck.
One more time.
They're getting an encore, thank you.
Hi, I'm Cindy Gibbs. I wanted to say I'm really pleased to see the new, more streamlined and organized structure for our district in the new structure plan. For example, the movement that's supporting the collaboration between school safety and student affairs, it just makes sense, especially right now, the way things are going out in the world. Understanding that there's going to be stronger communication about how to set the table for best possible student outcomes. We know if our students aren't feeling well physically, feeling safe physically, they're not feeling emotionally safe at school, it's impossible to learn. Under this umbrella of this change structure, it makes sense, excuse me, that the Parent Engagement and Advisory Council, which I personally think should be called the Family Engagement Advisory Council, since it's not just parents, it's all the family. We started it this year. Dr. Cowie did a great job with it, and there were great meetings, and now we need to figure out a way to continue to expand upon that so that every school, regardless of what its makeup is, what kind of school it is, that the structure is there for parents to feel comfortable being engaged. The thing that I hear the most often from families is it's hard to be engaged at school. It's not fitting with their work schedule or their family structure or whatever it is. So it's up to our schools and our school leaders and our teachers and the kids that go there to figure out a way to get our families more engaged, whether they're coming to the school or our schools are going out to them out in the community. And to add to that, I changed some things. I was going to say something else, but then it struck me how important this is after we looked at that data. As a teacher who only ever taught in a regular public school, not a magnet, not a charter, I want to say on record, from me to you, teachers in those regular schools right now, I see you. I know what it's like to sit in a faculty meeting the first week in August and see how all the magnet schools and the charter school killed it, and you're still busting your butt, and you're only at wherever you are. We know how hard you work. We know that you accept and love every child that comes into your classroom to the best of your ability, whether their parents are engaged or they're not. And I know how hard it is to see that data every year and wish that there was something more we could do. So here's the wishing. Expand that family engagement. Make it easier for families to get involved in whatever way they can. And if the magnets are doing such a great job at it, we need to talk to them and find out what they're doing and figure out how we can add those policies to the regular public education and make the family see the outcome. Make them understand those numbers that we only see here at meetings that not everybody comes to. So I just wanted to make it very clear. All of our teachers, no matter what school you're in, no matter what kids you're working with, especially the aides too, we see you and we respect you and we want to give you as much support as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy Mileto and Anthony Brown is on deck. Did I say your last name correct?
Mileto.
Mileto.
I mean, it's Moyeto, but, you know, whatever, Mileto. It's been a while. I had a career shift, so new job, been in training since February, so I'm back. I have to say, I've watched some of the school board meetings, and there's still a lot of fighting going on. And it's really discouraging because I grew up here, and this is a community. And we all have to live here. And this is like my perspective is, as someone from LGBTQ, I can never force somebody to accept me. But I can ask you for respect and kindness through our differences. I don't have to force someone to teach their children that my family looks different and it's wrong. That's not my job. My job is to be kind and be respectful. And I think that's what we're missing, is that both sides want the other side to agree, and they're just fighting to the death. And realistically, we need to validate each other and look at each other and say, hey, Moms for Liberty, I hear you. You know, the books in the school are a concern. How can we work together to fix that? Hey, Parents for Equality, I see you're advocating for, kids that don't have a voice. How can we help? But there's a compromise that says that we can work together to do that. And we, as adults, are setting an example in this room, because if you think your high schoolers and your middle schoolers don't know what's going on here, it's a reflection in the school, because they're going to fight each other. So what you see in school is a direct reflection of the adults in those kids' lives. We are a reflection of our children in the community, and we, as a community, need to change. And we need to be kind to each other through our differences. I don't have to agree with all of you about how to raise my kid. It's my kids. You don't get to tell me what to do with my kids, but you are the educators, and how can I work with you so that my kid has the best education experience possible? That's our jobs. If a teacher needs resources, give it to them. Don't question whether the kid should be removed from their class. Trust them, and then talk to them later. We've lost communication, we've lost compassion, we've lost empathy for each other. What you go through is not what I go through. But I'll have a hard conversation. If you want to learn about what it's like in the day in the life of a lesbian in Vero, come talk to me, because I could talk all day. Some of you guys have talked to me, and I appreciate it. But let's set an example. Be the we that we want our community to be. Set an example for our children. Of a conflict resolution. What does that look like? It doesn't look like adults going back and forth at each other, who's right, who's wrong. It looks like validation, and I hear you, but how can we make it right? And I challenge each of you to do that together, and all of you practice that same conflict resolution that we expect from our kids in school.
Thank you. Anthony Brown and Kevin Browning is on deck.
Good evening. Anthony Brown. First, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Dr. Moore, Dr. Jones, Mr. Bass for an awesome meeting a week or so ago. I think we moved the pendulum forward somewhat. Not perfect, but we moved. And also Mr. Bass and Mr. Seymour for another meeting that we had that moved the pendulum. I'm here tonight with concerns from the NAACP, the community, and teachers. And to give you an overview of my concerns, one is the demographics of middle school principals, especially Gifford Middle, reassignment, movement, and non-renewal of black teachers and administrators, African Americans with leadership certifications who are continuously passed over in lieu of those without certification, fair, open, consistent, and transparent process for ascension in the school district of Indian River County. I preface it with definable and transparent process. Definable and transparent process. When it comes to Gifford Middle, for years, Gifford Middle is historic in our community. Gifford Middle is where I went as Gifford High School. Only a couple of years, 3.5 years ago, we were providing access. Under that, the conduit for us to gain access was Ms. Roxanne Decker and more so Ms. Tasha Jones. It's a historic thing where we can access that school and understand the legacy room. Without Ms. Tasha Jones and some of us, there would not be a legacy room which defines the Gifford community, Gifford High School, and a historic past that seems to have gone away. We also understand when you say in renewal and movements and transfer, is that a fit? That's problematic to me, because what is a fit? How do you define a fit? Are we using some of these nuances to say, I got a grudge against a teacher, I don't like a teacher, I don't like an administrator, but if there's a definable and transparent process for ascension, then these nuances are not at the table. I need to know if that principal is a person that should be there. I need to know if there was a process that I can define, that I can walk in and see. We need to understand that lives are being hurt, where these people put out, but not given the opportunity because they're not a fit, or because somebody in a room somewhere didn't like them. I will be coming before Dr. Moore and Dr. Jones and others. All of a sudden, I'm getting a multitude of complaints. Teachers and administrators who feel they've been done wrong have now decided no longer will I go quietly into the night. But I thank you, and I hope that you as a board understand that you have some serious problems in relationship to how African American administrators, teachers are being treated in this district. If we're going to move forward, let's make it definable and a transparent process, and we won't have to go through this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Browning. And then our last speaker will be Chris Keble.
You know, you'd think after 20 years in the school district and then doing some radio work, I wouldn't get nervous up here in front of you, but sometimes I do, so that's all right. I'm not going to go off script, but I was horrified, just to say at the beginning, Uvalde, Texas. And the first thing, one of the things that I thought about was if something like that were to happen here, our officers wouldn't respond like those did down there. I'm proud of who we have here, Mr. Milo Thornton and the others. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for what you do, and I know you run the way you're supposed to go and take care of business. So that being said, good evening, everyone. Chair Dr. Jones and Superintendent Dr. Moore, Mr. Bast and Mr. Seymour, thank you for meeting with us to address our concerns. As you heard, and as you could see with evidence provided, there were some legitimate concerns. Now, I did ask for some information, and I haven't received it yet, on the personnel actions. And I come to find out that there were some good appointments. Congratulations to some of those who were appointed, and I think that that's good. And then there were some concerning ones also. So I'm getting calls from parents who were concerned that a principal who loves the kids and the community in the prominently black area in Gifford is being moved, but of more importance is the person that you're placing there in that place. A man who has complaints of bullying, harassment, and intimidation of black boys. Now, these people I spoke to are high profile and well-known good families, from doctors and lawyers, and the kids are good kids. Now, if I give you the names, you'd be surprised. Dr. Moore, you kind of knew, you probably won't know, but some of these other people will. There was a meeting with that particular situation with Mr. Seymour and Mr. Bass, and at the end, the kids were not guilty of what they were accused of. Now you have a man who's questioning a 10-year-old child saying, "Are you a threat to my school?" "No, sir." "Are you a threat to my school?" "No, sir." "Are you?" Over and over again. I don't know about you, but I have a little boy, and that would piss me off, and I'm sorry to say it like that, but I don't like abusive kids, and I don't like somebody who gets into a little child's face and accuses the child of something over and over again. That is unacceptable. Sorry, I don't mean to look back there. I'm supposed to be talking to the chairman, I know. So hearing that story and knowing that she has evidence, and I know that has happened, and this is the type of person that we want to put in Gifford with a predominantly black school with black children, and going around saying we're going to clean up Gifford. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know. We'll see. So what exactly is the cleaning up? And to what Mr. Brown just spoke to, I understand that all the middle school principals are white males. No black males are qualified to lead in this county? Interesting. Now, don't take it the wrong way. I had Mr. Knoll, Mr. Asher, Mr. Kramick. They were white males, and they were good. And then they were some of my role models, too. Weren't as good as Dr. Jones, but they were good. I'd like to request, and will in writing, some information, including the complaints from that school. Know we've got work to do, but I don't want to see anybody else moved and out of retaliation and without support.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's the right way. Thank you.
Okay, Chris Keble. Chris Keble. Is Chris Keble out in the foyer? No? Okay. She left? Okay. Thank you. All right. We are on to our approval of consent agenda items, but I did notice that there was one issue on the consent, and that was from the minutes for May. On the minutes, it stated that I was not present, but I was on Teams. You couldn't see me because I was on my phone. So that needs to be amended. Okay, I call for a motion then with the amended consent agenda.
Move approval.
Okay, Dr. Schiff,
Second.
Dr. Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. 5-0. With that, with the fact that we just approved consent agenda item, I'd like to call out a couple items that were just approved. The board protocols that Mrs. Rosario brought up before, the change in that was approved. Congratulations to the Vero Beach High School math team that's going to go compete at Washington, D.C. We approved their travel to that. Many, many donations, but there was one that was way above and beyond. The Rotary Club of Sebastian, from their Shrimp Fest, were able to give many donations to Sebastian River High School, so that's appreciated as well. Okay.
To bring one up.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to bring something up when you're done.
Sure, and then the other two items is, today we talked about safety. And if anybody hasn't had the chance and opportunity to look at our wonderful long workshop, we talked a lot about safety. Of course, that's forefront of what we think about. And we talked about prop doors and fire evacuation plans. Those were two items that I noticed that came up on there. And, you know, I think we covered almost everything there was to talk about with safety today. If not, I'm sure we'll cover more. All right, Ms. Rosario?
Yeah, I guess I should stay on the topic of safety then, because one of the things that Mrs. Berenborg brought up earlier that was something I had not thought about were the gate buzzers. Is that what it's called?
The door sensors?
Door sensors.
Yeah.
So, but if you put them on doors or gates that are left open when they should be closed, you'll hear an alarm sounding, which is a really neat idea, and I had not thought about that, so I'm hoping that that gets picked up by the superintendent as something to really research and implement.
And the radios for crossing guards.
And the radios for crossing guards, very important. The one thing that I just wanted to point out for anyone who notices on our consent agenda, 10A, it was the approval of the 2021 2022 FLDOE Equity Report. I just want to identify that that is not the same report that is connected to the work of the Equity Committee and our partial unitary status. So those are two separate things. This one that we just approved is one that the DOE requires us to submit on an annual basis. Dr. Moore? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. On an annual basis, and it just has some equity information that we're supposed to report to them based on their template of questions. So when you see that's why some of those areas look a little disjointed from our equity plan, and that's the reason why. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. I also wanted to thank the board for, and the superintendent and Mr. Bass for moving forward on the salary schedule for substitute teachers who are now being called guest educators.
Okay. You got it.
It'll take a while. And so I'm glad a parent brought this up, a parent who is involved in our PTA and who is indeed a substitute teacher in our district a while ago brought up the fact that her friend's teenage son who works at Target makes more money per hour than she does as a substitute teacher with a bachelor's degree. And so and she and I, we just started talking about it, and we researched it here. So I wanted to thank Dr. Moore and Mr. Bass for looking into that and really giving a well-needed raise where that belongs. That certainly is an area that is worthy of a raise. And that's all I have on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Agenda.
So we
Ms.
have
Bambo?
one item. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add on the equity report, and I've seen this report for many years. Thank you to Eric Seymour, Dr. Shafty, for putting the detail in there and how it links to the policies we already have. And of course, it goes into gender equity and athletics in every detail. And I think it's around 40-some pages, so I encourage people to take a look at it if you have any questions.
Okay, I think I opened up a can of worms there, talking after consent. All right, so we have one item that was moved from consent to action, that is 8A, and it's the approval of personnel recommendations. Ms. Rosario, you pulled that item?
It's my item.
I know it's your item, sorry. Would you like to go ahead and talk about the
I
item?
will briefly set up the item and be more than happy to answer any questions that board members may have. As presented today, this is the realignment of the district offices, which we spoke through, minor shifts in responsibilities per cabinet members, really to ensure that we continue to move the work forward in the most efficient and effective way. I will say, as both Mr. Browning and Mr. Brown mentioned, more conversations like that, although they may be difficult, in some ways uncomfortable to hear, is exactly what the system I need, Mr. Bass's need, in order to continue to move the district forward. And I don't think either of you have hard times having difficult conversations. As Mr. Browning shakes his head, nor does Mr. Brown. And the truth of the reality is those conversations accelerated my understanding of opportunities to have a closer look at the actions that we take as a system, and looking forward to continuing to have those specific conversations. In terms of placements, we only hire individuals and place individuals to lead our schools who are high character, who have the determination, who have proven that they are in fact going to be in the best interest of children. You mentioned the opportunity to maintain Gifford open. It will continue to stay open, and that legacy room that has been created will do nothing more than continue to expand and grow. We will not go backwards. We will continue to grow and accelerate what has taken place, honor the history that has taken place, but continue to grow the school moving forward. Clean up, I don't know where that comes from, but that's not the reality. That's not the truth. That's not the conversations I had with any administrators. And I meet with all of them regarding where they are, what assignments would be. So I'm very, very excited about the directions, the placements of individuals. I had a number of difficult conversations. Some administrators are in fact being provided opportunities which are not the opportunities that they thought they would have had 2 weeks ago. But it's my responsibility as your superintendent to ensure that we're designed in a way that ensures that the system is going to be able to maximize the full potential of all children. That is the item that we put together. That is the item that is in front of you. I do have two soon-to-be assistant principals who capture everything that I just spoke about, but I will acknowledge them once the item is moved through the process. With that, Madam Chair, turn it back over to you.
Okay, Mrs. Rosario?
Yeah, I guess, Dr. Moore, I'm going to put it back in your court, because as I pull up, one of the reasons, board members, that I pulled this from from consent to action is because when I sat down and I pulled up the recommendations, the personnel recommendations, I did not see the two administrators that Dr. Moore is, I think, if I'm was referring to. And so now, maybe, I don't know if there needed to be a sync or something, but now I see them on the recommendations. So the two assistant principals that were from Sebastian Middle School are now reassigned to, one is going to remain an assistant principal, and the other one is going into the public records and contract and procurement specialist position.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Those are the two assistant principals that I received concerns from the community on. I have not heard with regard to anyone else, one other person, but I think it's important for us to clarify our role as board members. It's the superintendent's role to hire personnel. It's also his role to recommend personnel to the school board, and it's up to the school board to approve his recommendations or not. And so that's where the feedback comes in, and statute is clear that earlier today, there was a discussion about us getting into the weeds of this process. And I think, Mr. Brown, you mentioned it very clearly about we need definable, transparent processes so that we all understand. If anyone looks at I'm pulling it up so I know what I'm mentioning. If anyone looks at the organizational chart that the superintendent has online and has referred to even from this morning, the very, very top SD-IRC leadership begins with the citizens of Indian River County. The citizens of Indian River County are essentially our bosses. This board is supposed to respond to citizens of Indian River County. We don't respond in the sense of our decision-making to the superintendent. It's to you all, and it's to all of the citizens who are listening. And so when you citizens, including employees, have concerns, then we have to kind of address that. And that's one of the reasons why I know I had conversation with Dr. Moore, but I'm grateful that he addressed it. I'm grateful that these two assistant principals are on here right now. And so, board members, that's why I pulled it. And at this point, I don't have any other recommendations. Dr. Moore?
I just do want to address what you said. And those were concerns shared with a couple board members. That information came from me. I had opportunities to meet with those individuals, and opportunities to review due process and assignments. and then follow-up meetings. So I believe the most appropriate placement is taking place. There were opportunities for the system to do better in terms of documentation and follow-up. That's disappointing to me. But the reality is, as your superintendent, is taking the opportunity to look and say we have to be fair and right. And I think that is the outcome that we've reached here today with those two individuals.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Okay, first, I'm going to get a motion on her item. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Okay. Now discussion. Dr. Jones.
As Dr. Moore said, in our individual meetings, we will certainly share with him our ideas. And as a former administrator, probably the hardest thing I ever had to do was recommend non-renewal or recommend a different placement, and of course send that to the board. It's just a hard time, but we always have to remember we're in the people business. Our students, our teachers, our administrators, we're in the people business. I think the organizational chart alignment is very, very good, and I've seen many organizational charts. I like how it's aligned. And I said this in the workshop today. I was moved mid-year by two superintendents, one from dean at Vero Beach High School to assistant principal at the junior high, and then from a middle school principal to a high school principal. There was no interview, it was just a placement. And I know those things happen. But one thing I want to make sure that we have, and for every person put in any position, you know, I wish you well, we all want you to be successful. I want to make sure that we have and continue to have an administrative pool where there are openings, where teachers who want to become assistant principals and start that process is available. And Dr. Moore did answer that in the email. There will be 4 assistant principal positions open. I just want to make sure when we talk about the morale that, and I remember when I first applied for an assistant principalship, that opportunity is there, that opportunity is for us to continue to grow up. And I'm glad that we are assigning people who are internal. And I think that's important to show people that we care about their success, and they want to get into administrative pool, we are there. And also, when these people do get into administration, because I'm telling you, the principalship is hard, assistant principal, it's hard, that there is support for these people. And I mean support, and I know Dr. Moore and the curriculum instruction and PD and so forth will be there. They don't want to be in the office with paper. They need to be out there supporting our principals, assistant principals, teachers, and support staff. So one thing I want to continue to watch, and I hear what people said when they talked about it, citizen input and placing people in the right positions. I heard that. Just that we are there for these people, and people never give up hope that they too can become an administrator. It's just not going to be a placement, and I want to continue to look at that.
Okay. Anyone else? We're good? Mr. Barefoot? Any discussion on that?
No, good, thank you.
Okay. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Are you in favor, Mr. Barefoot?
He said aye.
Aye? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just have the board's
Yes.
indulgence for just 2 seconds?
Yes.
We did just appoint 2 brand-new assistant principals. Ms. Patterson, could you please stand and be recognized as the assistant principal at Dodger County? Ms. Nicole Garrett, can you please stand and be recognized assistant principal at Sebastian? Very excited about the opportunity that each of you are going to have and the impact that I know you are going to have. So very, very excited for that work, for the impact, having the opportunity to speak and engage and interact with each of you. I know those faculties, those staffs, those children, you are going to push them. You're going to expect very, very, very you're going to have a high expectation while at the same time nurturing them to grow them. So you are everything that these schools and these children deserve to have. So congratulations to each of you.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you, ladies.
Now the family should take y'all out to dinner. I'm getting
While they're not stressed out. Okay, with that, we don't have any other action items, so it's time for superintendent's report.
Presented already.
Okay, that's right. All right, we do have a discussion item, and that is the FSBA Advocacy Committee member and alternate. I need to read, in our workshop today, we discussed the FSBA Advocacy Committee member and alternate. At this time, do we have any nominations for the committee member and alternate? Dr. Schiff?
Yeah, for reasons we discussed this afternoon, I don't know that we're doing nominations, right? Because it's not a vote, but it's a recommendation, I guess.
It's a recommendation, so it calls for a nomination.
Yeah, because of the way we spoke about it this afternoon, I'd like to recommend that Dr. Jones stays in the position of advocacy and Ms. Barenborg stays in the position of alternate because of its relationship with the legislative committee, which we're not voting on tonight, but because of the relationship between those two and their interactiveness. I realize that was a mouthful to basically say I'd like to keep it the way it is.
Okay, and it states on here, if everyone is in agreement and we've reached board consensus, Mrs. Esplin will submit the names to FSBA in the morning. Is everyone in agreement with that?
That's fine.
Is that fine with you?
Yeah.
Okay, is that fine with you, Dr. Jones?
Yeah, yep.
Yep, okay. I won't ask for a vote then. I think we're in consensus.
No voting here.
No voting here. All right, school board member matters. Who would like to go first?
I will first.
Okay, Ms. Rosario, go ahead.
You want to go? Go ahead. That's fine.
Don't all yell at once. Go ahead.
I think this was after our last meeting, but I know Ms. Rosario and I were at the Indian River virtual graduation, and that was absolutely wonderful. I think 11 students graduated, 9 were here. Ms. Holden, if you're still in the
She left.
room, it was really a good time. Been to a couple more Faces campaign with literacy movement, the hospital, and I know they have one at City Hall this week. And they've all been very, very well attended, so congratulations there. As I said earlier, I was into the pre-Ignite staff development, if you will, for about an hour, and that was really a lot of fun. They went into the dashboard looking at some results with climate survey and so forth, so that was very well organized. I got to attend the state recognition for Ms. Esplin and her little sister, Olivia, and the state representative came down to the Big Brothers Big Sisters, and they're going to be sending Miss Esplin and Olivia to Tallahassee sometime, and this is a big thing. I never realized how big it was until I was there, so again, congratulations, Miss Esplin. We had recognition today with our ESE teachers, and that parent advisory this year has been phenomenal, and I'm just looking forward as we continue to take that, as Ms. Moray says, to the next level. Dr. Moore, any idea on school grades, what time or what we're looking at?
Through the chair, we expect school grades the data for in about 2 weeks. And then there's typically a 2-week opportunity for the districts to work with the county to clean up scores that are repeated, or things of that nature. Typically right around early July, the second week in July, depending on that particular data set and the amount of work that needs to be done.
Good. And there's an important meeting Wednesday at Vero Beach High School, just to get more community input about the Jimmy Graves complex and encourage people to come. I think it's Vero Beach High School cafeteria, Wednesday at 3. And also when we were at Pre-Ignite, they talked about the climate surveys. Dr. Moore, do you know when that will be available to the public, the school climate surveys?
Through the chair, right now we're in the process of principals, as you referenced. They had their very first opportunity to get into it, for lack of a better way of saying it, which is disaggregating it, looking at opportunities to improve the organization. So we'll probably be turning that around probably next Monday. It's a very, very quick turnaround, but it's completely public information.
Thank you. And again, I just want to congratulate all the elementary schools going from 28th to 12th. It's been a rough couple of years, and I know we want to continue to make that 90%, continue to chip away at that, but I know the teachers, administrators, support staff have worked hard. And then I think he's gone, but I just wanted to thank Mr. Meyer again for his leadership, for his compassion, and for his openness to always listening to us, so I appreciate him. Thank you.
Dr. Schiff?
Yeah, since our last meeting, a number of us attended the TCTC graduation, which now feels like forever ago. But that was great, and is always really moving to see people who may not have celebrated that accomplishment in their teens and have now been able to go back and get their GEDs and other professional certifications, and it's always gratifying. So shout out to all of you. Also, congratulations to all of our graduates who now actually have their diplomas in hand. Because for those of you who don't know, what they get at graduation isn't their official diploma, and they come back and they pick it up, but now all our graduates officially have their diplomas, so congratulations to all of them. I am so sorry, Mrs. Esplin, that I was unavailable to attend that, and as I heard Dr. Jones speak, I'm even more sorry I wasn't able to attend it, but huge congratulations to you and Olivia and your mentorship and your work in that area. Was able also, actually, just want to say also, it's been mentioned a couple times, but I really appreciated our conversation this afternoon on school safety and all of the ways, the multifaceted ways in which we understand and are looking at school safety both inside our schools and outside our schools, and how much those have to go together to really provide comprehensive school safety. So thank you to my fellow board members and staff for that conversation. Lastly, I was able to attend the summer conference of FSBA last week, which, as usual, was great. It always is. In particular, there was a conversation, the Florida Department of Education did a couple of presentations on new legislation and updates and priorities. Unfortunately, because the legislation has not yet taken effect, they don't have guidance yet, and so it will affect, a lot of it, they haven't worked out how actually to support us in their guidance, but that will be coming, because, and before they can tell us anything, they have to have it legally vetted. So those conversations are simultaneously productive and not entirely productive, but we'll be getting more guidance on that with respect to new legislation shortly. And that's it, that's all I got.
Okay, Mr. Barefoot, I think he just signed off.
No, he's still there.
Is he there?
He's there, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Barefoot, your turn.
Unmute.
You're muted, sir.
You're muted, sir.
Now I'm live.
Okay.
Two things. First of all, in the preliminary discussion today about the budget that Mr. Fagan will present at our next meeting, I think it's particularly noteworthy that, and of course I grew up in the world of finance for better or worse, but Standard & Poor's just upgraded the district's rating from negative to stable, and Fitch maintained our stable rating. And for those of you that pay attention to these sorts of things, that is not insignificant, excuse me. And I would, as I said earlier today, I congratulate Mr. Fagan, the staff, Dr. Moore, for over the last couple of years improving our financial situation in a very difficult environment, to the point where the rating agencies, which do determine should we need to go to the credit markets, the rate of interest that we will pay. So congratulations to them. The second thing that I wanted to mention, and Dr. Jones referenced the Graves Field project, better known as the Vero Beach Community Complex. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and I would like to particularly thank Cindy Emerson, Ms. Emerson, for all the work she's done on behalf of the district. We've made a fair amount of progress, and at some point we will begin to go public with exactly where we stand. It's an ambitious project, but I could not be more encouraged from the support, formal and informal, we've received from the community at large. You've read in the newspapers that the city of Vero Beach approved a $1 million commitment to helping develop that project. Subsequently, we've gotten commitments from a number of individuals. The aggregate amount of the commitment is well over $1 million. We've also gotten a commitment from Florida Power and Light that is quite significant. Some of these commitments will be paid early upfront. Some will be spread over a couple of 5 years, from 2 to 5 years, but it's being very well received. We continue to work quietly, and hopefully, let's say, putting Labor Day as a benchmark, we will be able to go public at a level of commitments that assures the various phases that we've laid out, and all the details associated with will be an exciting time for our communities at large. That's really all my comments. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I attended a FACES event as well at Treasure Coast Community Health. At the same time, they opened their pediatric center in Gifford. So it's beautiful. It's a really nice center. It's really nice that that's opening there. Of course, I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Meyer, but he is traveling, I guess, already. And we appreciate all that he did for here. And congratulations to those of you that are still in the room that have new positions. Congratulations.
The 3 of them.
Yes. I did attend zoning and planning last week, and interesting thing that just got added, and this was through the visioning project. It was the first thing that they brought forward, and that is that they increased the size of a dwelling that you can put on your property as a standalone outside your house. And they did that so people could add either mother-in-law apartments, or that's what they call them. I guess we should call them other things instead of just mother-in-law apartments. But also, one of the things that came up was helping with affordable housing. You could build one and rent it out to a teacher. That was one of the examples they gave. So I thought that was an interesting thing that they put forward, and they're assuming that they're going to get some permitting for that pretty soon. People are kind of anxious to do that. So that was one of the things I saw on that. I have been traveling an awful lot, attending weddings for family members who couldn't get married during COVID. And so I was in Denver last week, and I heard kind of the same things on the news there that we've been dealing with here, and that is student discipline, teacher shortage, affording the transportation costs that are increasing, things like that. This is just happening everywhere. So we've got to worry about our little corner of the world, but it's something I know other people are dealing with, so I'm kind of listening to what their answers are and doing research that way. All right, with that.
I didn't do mine.
I'm so sorry, Mrs. Rosario. Go ahead.
That's okay. So I attended the MPO meeting as the alternate for Mr. Barefoot, and what was interesting in that, well, most of the meeting really talked about some funding that they received, and they received a little bit more than $295 million in federal funding for special projects. But what I thought was a topic of discussion amongst several of the other priority projects that they have. One was the bicycle pedestrian trail, or a bicycle path, and the idea of putting a bicycle path from Sebastian all the way down to the beach side. One that would have stop stations or bike path stations where you can stop and rest if you were a family on this bike path. And one of the things that I think we should, and of course it's not going to be an overnight project, but I thought it was pretty interesting for us. But one thing that I do want to mention with this is that we need to pay attention to this project moving forward, because they were also thinking about, or talking about, at least it was proposed, those little raised bumps in the creation of the pavement so that cars driving won't go into the bike path and kind of knock a pedestrian over or hit a pedestrian. And so these ridges inside of the pavement, there were several different kinds that were proposed or that were mentioned, recommended. And I just thought that was pretty interesting, but it got me thinking about our school buses. So if we have bike lanes, obviously this is long-term down the line, but if we have bike paths along many of the major roadways, if our buses, if it runs parallel to our bus stops, we have to be able to communicate with the MPO and with those in transportation, the transportation department, that there need to be some kind of, I don't know how, regulations about buses turning when there is at a bus stop, at a bike path. So if a bike path is here and a bus stops here to let students off, if the bikes keep going, we have to make sure that bikes stop for students to get off and the bus cannot make a right turn. I'm looking at Mr. Bass because I know that he will be able to share this information and move forward with it. So there is a really large stack of information here that I'm just gonna kind of hand over to you because some of that was in here and I thought that was pretty interesting. I like that idea, of the ridged, I had not thought about that, and many people, the statistics of people who have been hit by cars while on bike paths is pretty significant. Even if it's, a driver who is not intoxicated and just kind of swerves, it can happen. And so we have to be able to protect all of our citizens, of course. So I'm going to hand this over to you, Mr. Bass, so that you can kind of take a look at that. The other thing that I had here was a question that came up during the equity plan that Mr. Seymour, that was just mentioned in there, that was just approved in our consent agenda. The IB program is a program that I don't think we talk about much here as a board. And I'd like to ask the superintendent if you can put together a presentation for us on the IB program. What are the qualifications for students to get into the IB program, the curriculum with the IB program, the monitoring of the IB program moving forward. I know that there is some information on the academic gap between African American students in our equity plan, in our African American achievement plan actually, and in our efforts to close that gap. What does that look like with regard to IB and even AP? So I thought maybe we could have an opportunity before the school opens that you can present or put together something for us, even though I know it's the summer, but I don't know if Mr. Spurgeon is around, but.
No, we could definitely do that, and I'll probably tie it into the acceleration component of the school grade, which ties in the CTE course completion as well as those programs in which you just referenced.
Yeah, I think that's important. I received some information recently, and of course it's unproven, but just some talk, and I'd love for you to address it at that time, that some students are being placed in there just for the numbers' sake, and that they're not academically on par with the other students, and it might be bringing the entire program down. Of course, I'm not so sure of any of this. I'm just sharing this so that when you come together, bring all this information, you can have this prepared for us. So I appreciate that. The other thing is the school, the safety and security overview today. Thank you for putting that together. What is concerning to me, as I mentioned earlier, is the mental health portion of it. There is a great portion there that is seems like a push to turn our schools into mental health facilities. That's my opinion and that's my view of it. I know there are some parents who feel the same way, but much of my concern earlier was using whatever processes we're going to use moving forward to put parents first. Parents have to be given the opportunity to opt in or opt out, give permission for or deny services of any sort, any kind, any conversation, anything. That is the fundamental right of the parents, and that is supported by the Parents' Bill of Rights and the Parents' Bill of Rights in Education. But within that school safety and security overview was the anti-bullying campaign and the anti-vaping campaign. Very, very important moving forward. I'd love for us to learn more about that before it's actually unveiled, or however way we're going to move forward with that. The anti-bullying, zero tolerance bullying policy. Are we creating that? Are we not creating that? When you bring it to us, can we have something? Can we have a proclamation? I mean, if we're going to open up the school year with everyone on the same page, it would be great even if we could have a proclamation that says we are an anti-bullying district.
Go big or go home. So,
Exactly. Yes? Okay. The other thing is, I would like for Dr. Moore, I'm going to kind of give you some of my time here. The House Bill 1467, which is the K-12 education school responsibilities, school district responsibilities. House Bill 1467 was signed by Governor DeSantis, and the DOE has finally created a framework of to-dos, I suppose, bulleted to-dos and dates and deadlines for which needs to be implemented at the school district. But this is really regarding our library systems, our media center specialists, the personnel involved in the selection of school district library materials, and making our materials transparent for our parents and for community members. So, Dr. Moore, I'm just going to hand this over to you. If you can just give us, please, a plan moving forward as to what the district, I know that this is just fairly new. It was, it's dated June 3rd, so we are almost a couple of weeks in already. If you can just kind of lead us out with the plan moving forward for this, because I know a lot of people are asking, and the bill that was signed begins, is in effect July 1st. So what is our plan to get this in motion by July 1st, please? Thank you.
Through the chair, that is in the queue, as we call it here in the district. So staff, it has been assigned to staff. They're working on recommendations. There are a number of things that need to be done. Some are relatively short-term, some are long-term. So staff is working through each of those recommendations in board briefings in the coming week, probably starting this Thursday, if not Monday, depending on when I have you. We will go through the first round of this is where we are to receive some of your feedback, which helps craft the item. From there, I'll be able to take it back to staff to create what our process is moving forward. So there's still a lot of work yet to be done, as that information, as you said, is relatively new.
So we already had a conversation about this quite a while ago, of which a sample of a policy was provided as a starting point. So you might not need to redo that whole thing, because we already had a lot of discussion.
No, I'm sorry. No, you are correct, and there was, that is the starting point. What we were pending was the direct guidance from the state. And there was, so we have some of that.
This is it?
Yeah, I know. That's what
Oh.
we were pending, and now we
Right.
have it.
Okay.
So now staff is looking at it to make sure it will be comprehensive and thorough in terms of bringing back a recommendation regarding how our district will move forward.
Okay, thank you.
A question follow-up with Ms. Rosario's statement. Heard from a couple of media specialists, so all orders are on hold until we get through this process, or?
Yeah, so and Mr. Meyer had shared this before, the allocation that they received last year that is what is on hold. They will continue to receive that allocation plus the allocation for the upcoming school year. And we don't want any media specialists to have to repeat the process.
Okay,
Or
yeah.
discard something that wasn't done the most appropriate way.
In looking at with the media specialist today about, are we choosing a district committee, or can the schools choose their own as long as they reflect the population at the school? Because she said, can we use our SAC team if it's reflecting the population of the school?
And those are the conversations that staff is having.
Okay.
And as I said, we don't want to have one book that would be legit at school A and then something different at school B. We need to be consistent across the entire system. And I think we're a nice-sized district to make sure that we can do that with a high level of fidelity. It's just a matter of what is the process, how are we going to onboard this, to train it, how are we going to go through the review process, and what's the systems that we put in place to ensure, as we bring in new materials, that we're doing it a way that is completely upfront and honest.
And I just want to make sure we have books that represent all of our community.
Absolutely, and we will.
Is there anything else that you had? Because
Yeah, I was writing notes while listening to what Dr. Moore was saying, and right now it just escaped me. So it'll come back, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we have the superintendent's closing.
No, just thank the board for their support. This meeting, or when you reorganize or make shifts in the organization or personnel, it's never easy, but it is not a responsibility I take lightly. Thank all of you for your individual meetings, your push and advocacy in order to ensure that we as a system got this right. And I think we've made some very, very good moves that's going to ensure that we as a system continue to propel ourselves forward. So thank you for your support, and looking forward to really closing out this school year and opening up the next school year. And we will begin that work. Actually, we've already begun it, but now with everyone in place, we're going to be able to get everything done that needs to be done.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:34. Thank you all.